You just kind of struggle through your decision making, or you make your world so small that you only are going to make decisions in a space that you feel comfortable with. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast, where we center the stories of Black women as we heal from the painful relationships with our mothers. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Arnice. So one of the biggest ways that my Black Mother Wound was showing up in my life was my inability to trust myself. I didn't think that I couldn't trust myself. I just thought I naturally didn't make good decisions. And the difference with that was I didn't think something was wrong with like my learning. I just thought I was incapable. Like, you don't make good decisions. You can't think things through. You can't trust yourself. Versus I didn't know how to trust myself. That's the kind of delineation I want you to look at, because you might think that, oh, you don't have the ability to trust yourself. So you have to ask your mother for advice. You have to ask your friends when you want to do something. You got to call everybody up like that, like as if that's the way it should be. And that's the real crazy part with having this type of relational wound, is that it's so normalized, your dysfunction, that you don't even think anything is wrong because you found a way to maneuver around it. And it makes perfect sense to you, when in fact, we all fucked up. I want to talk about how we can learn to trust ourselves, because healing your mother wound is about having autonomy, is ownership, is sovereignty. It is you basically the alpha and the omega of your own self and of your own life. And that is impossible without self-trust. So this is really a cornerstone of healing. I know I talk about, hyper independence and being emotionally shut down and all those types of things, which you definitely have to fix. But trust and trusting yourself, I think, is even more important. It's like foundational. And if you don't get this, you're going to be struggling with every area of your life, because you always have to make decisions. You're always going to have to be deciding something, even the smallest thing. What am I going to eat for breakfast? What kind of gas am I going to put in my car? Should I take the job? What am I going to wear to work? Should I date this person or not? Like, there's so many decisions you are making on a day-to-day, hour by hour basis. And if you don't trust yourself, you're going to have an issue in a lot of areas of your life. Or maybe you trust yourself with a job. You make good decisions in that. But a lot of times when it comes to things that are important to us, things that are personal to us, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to vulnerability, when it comes to what I should be doing with my life, what I want to do with my life, trust becomes an issue very often. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, why we don't trust ourselves. Let's start. How did this shit even happen? How do we get in this conundrum, Jennifer? Well, the mother wound, like we know, means you don't have autonomy. So when you're a young girl, your survival depends on your mother's approval, her happiness, her appeasement of you. So you learn to lean into her dominance and her authority. And for her to feel safe, she has to be exerting that dominance and authority in your life. So there's no place for you to learn to trust. Add on top of that, if she is not trusting of people, if her trauma has made her believe that there's no one she can count on, there's no one she can trust, and she really can only trust herself, that's like the other side of the coin. Because if you think that you only can trust yourself, then you probably don't even trust yourself. In all actuality, you just kind of struggle through your decision making, or you make your world so small that you only are going to make decisions in a space that you feel comfortable with. That's another way you might not know that you can't trust yourself, because you have figured out how to make decisions in a very small window, a little corner of your life. Like you're in a shoebox when you should be in a mansion, but you're like, well, I feel safe right here. If I step out of that, if I step out of my comfort zone, I'm not going to trust myself. And then we're taught to believe that if you don't trust yourself, or you don't trust something that's happening, that means it shouldn't be trusted and is automatically dangerous. What's up, and thank you for watching this episode of the Black Mother Womb podcast. I'll let you get back to it in less than 60 seconds. If you're watching this, then you've been struggling with the effects of the painful relationship with your mother. This is why I created Resolve. It's a 6-week group healing program for Black women who are finally ready to heal their mother wound, but need the support, guidance, and a safe community to do it in. Whether you're struggling to accept your mother for who she is, trying to make peace with the past, or learning how to build a loving relationship with yourself, Resolve is the answer. Imagine making decisions that are best for you without feeling guilty. What if you could finally trust and believe in yourself and begin living your best life on your own terms? These are just a couple of the ways Resolve can change your life for the better. If you're ready to start thriving in your life now, click the link in the description box below to sign up and get notified when the class opens in August. We really are all in this together. I was taught that everything was dangerous. I was taught that spending the night at somebody's house was dangerous. Talking to boys was dangerous. Going away to college was dangerous. Staying out after dark was dangerous. Listening to certain type of music was dangerous. The world was dangerous because, I grew up a Southern Pentecostal Holy Ghost Church of God in Christ. So I was always in fear of going to hell, literally. So my fear of life itself was like, I can't trust myself because I'm liable to sin. And if I sin, I'm going to hell, and which means I'm going to die. So I can't risk that. So you may have had your version of that where you grow up and you never learn to trust yourself. And then because we are these obedient little Black girls, we believe that trusting our mother makes us a good girl. It makes us a good daughter. If I do what she says and I take her advice for everything and I follow the path that she has for my life, then I'm a good daughter and I can stay in her good graces. Everything will work out perfectly for me. And then you get older and you realize that's not the case. And then you're stuck in a space where you do have to make decisions for yourself, but you haven't developed the skill set to do so. But it all starts really from our own survival mechanism. And this also goes back, I think, to Black parenting, where you're always a child. So you always have to do what somebody else says. And if you have that mindset, then you never will learn to trust yourself and make your own choices and become responsible for yourself. So I think that's something to really understand, how we got to this place. And the next thing I want to jump into is, what do we do? What does it look like in the big picture when we are not trusting ourselves? Because it's not that we don't know. Let's not get that confused. We think not trusting means, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know, meaning you want to know something for sure. You're never going to know everything for sure. And that's why a lot of times we do become enmeshed with our mothers and friends and other people's opinions, because we need someone to be sure. And it's not about being sure about it working out the way you want. It is that I just trust myself to make decisions and choices for my life in a way that can lead me down the path of the life that I really want to have. And when you're actively not trusting yourself, I've been waiting to say this piece right here. Guess what you are doing? You are abandoning and rejecting yourself. When you get an intuitive hit, when your body tenses up, when there's a decision to be made, or the phone rings, or something happens and you go against your own body, When you go against your own mind, when you go against your own emotions, you go against your own intuition, you are rejecting and you are abandoning yourself, which is how we felt that our mothers did to us. It's the same thing. In that way, you are denying yourself. You are calling yourself a liar. You are saying you're not smart enough. There's no way you could know. Why would I trust you? Why would I trust you? Just think about the message that we send to ourselves. Why would I believe you? You don't make good decisions. You're wrong all the time. And if you make a mistake, it's going to be catastrophic, because that's also what we were taught. Like, if we don't get it right the first time, there's no room for error and all hell is going to break loose. So we put all of this pressure on every decision we have to make. And it's like, I don't want to be responsible if it goes wrong, because if it goes wrong, I can't fix it. Then what? And it's like a snowball effect that happens in our life. But what you're doing is rejecting and abandoning yourself every time you do that. So what you're going to have to do is get very, very quiet, mentally, emotionally, physically, and take the time to be aware of what is being answered inside of you. What is actually happening? And it's so funny because it really does start with small things. I'm not even going to talk about should you take the job or not? Should you move or not? Like, these are really big decisions. I want you to start with small things like, what do I want for breakfast? There are people that sit in front of the refrigerator with the door open and it's like, well, should I do this or should I do that? Or what are you going to wear this morning? Like, all of these decisions that need to be made where there's really no negative ramification. It's just a choice. But because of how we were brought up, for us, anything we do can yield a negative result, and a negative result that we are powerless to do anything about. So you not trusting yourself is really this sense of powerlessness that you have. And you have to realize that you're not powerless. And this is where we come in and we're talking about the adult version of you and the child version of you. 40-year-old Deborah is a grown woman and she knows how to do things, what to do, when to do, and how to solve problems. 9-year-old Deborah doesn't have that power. She doesn't have a voice to speak up. She can't call somebody and say, I need help. She can't walk out the door and leave when she's afraid and somebody is abusing her. She actually is powerless. So the way that you're making decisions is from the 9-year-old version of you who's afraid and who believes she's powerless. So this is where the reparenting comes in, when you have to become quiet and you are asking, what do you need right now? Where do you want to go? What would make you happy? And you make the decision from those places. We're making decisions based off, if something goes wrong, what am I going to do? We're making decisions based off who is going to be happy with me. I don't want them to be mad with me. We're making decisions from that place. We're making decisions from, I can't take care of myself. Those are all childlike thought processes. Just think about that. When you talk about you don't want somebody to be mad at you, so you're going to make a choice that's not authentic and genuine for you. Of course, you don't trust yourself. You have been abandoning and rejecting yourself. So guess what? You are completely out of integrity with yourself and the little girl in you. So of course there's a conflict there, but you have to get quiet and ask just what is the truth. You learn to trust yourself by relying on the truth. Now, that sounds easy, but for us, the way we grew up, we couldn't rely on the truth because the truth is my mother is treating me like shit. She's giving me bad advice. I'm watching her do jacked up stuff in her life, knowing that it doesn't make sense, but I can't be honest about that. I can't speak up about that because I'm a kid. So the truth really never had a value for us in our life from our perspective. So now as we think about how to get our needs met, and that's by hook or crook. But what you have to do is return back to your authentic self, and you have to get integrity with yourself, and you have to start telling the truth about what you want. And then you have to mother yourself through that process. And you have to be willing to sit through all the conversations that are going to happen in your head when you have to make a choice. Well, what if I take the job and I don't like it? In parenting yourself, you would say, well, you would find another job. Well, I want to quit this job, but this new job that I'm taking is, I'm kind of unsure about it, or I have to move. A healthy parent will say, I believe you can make a good decision. Well, let's look at your savings. How much money have you saved? Do you have 3 or 4 months of living expenses saved up? So if you don't like the job, you have time to come back to whatever it is you were doing. But we have to be able to walk ourselves through those conversations and be there for ourselves. But first, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust that you have the ability to do that. So how do you build trust in yourself? You start with doing what you say you're going to do. Why would you trust you? You say one thing, you do another. The wind blows, you change your mind. You start something, you stop. Why would you trust yourself? You have no track record of having a solid sense of integrity with yourself. So what you have to do is do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to make your bed up every morning, make your bed up every morning. If you're going to eat breakfast, if you say you need to start eating breakfast every morning, then eat breakfast every morning. If you say you want to walk for work, but you have to get up 45 minutes early and you're going to do it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then that's what you do. And we're not even doing this to get results. We're not eating to lose weight. We're not working out to lose weight. We're not making our bed so our room can be nice. Right now, we're doing it so we can learn how to have integrity with ourselves. And the byproduct of having integrity with yourself is you benefit and your life gets better. So it's not the end goal that you're focused on. It's the day-to-day process that I want you to focus on. Do what you say you're going to do. And that shit can be hard as fuck because we have already deemed ourselves as broken. We have already convinced ourselves that we're less than, that we're incapable, that our life can't change. We're afraid of success. We think if I do get better, then who will I be? Who will be around me? The people that I hang with now, they definitely won't want to be my friend if my life improves. So we find ways to sabotage ourselves. So you have to be really, really clear about this healing work. And that's why I also talk to y'all and think back and go back and listen to the old episodes about reparenting. You have to have a commitment to yourself. You have to say, I am committed to little Jennifer. She deserves to have a peaceful space to live. So what does that mean? Well, that means she does like her bed made. Well, we're going to make the bed every day. I deserve to go throughout the day and not feel hungry, and which gives me a headache and I lose energy and I'm lethargic and I'm a bad mood. All of that can be fixed with eating every morning, making your breakfast. When you start to take care of yourself starts to take care of you. And building trust with yourself, child, your whole life changes. because you make different choices. Because when you start to make the types of choices and do the types of things that build trust, you have to set boundaries. Oops. Somebody might want to stay on the phone all night. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got to get off the phone because I got to get up 45 minutes earlier because I've committed to taking a walk every morning before work. Ooh, I've said that I was going to save 10% of my paycheck, and y'all are asking me to go out Friday night. Oh, I'm not going to be able to go. Sorry. I know I'm usually I'm the designated driver. I don't drink. I come pick everybody else up. You might even be picking up the tab. You're going to have to say no. You don't trust yourself because you have abandoned yourself in hopes that someone else would show up for you. Because if you have the answers and you can really take care of yourself in a really healthy way, the question becomes, what is everybody else for? Because I thought that we're here to rescue one another, because I needed somebody to come rescue me when I was a little girl. And I've been rescuing my mother. I've been being her counsel. I have been cleaning up after her. I've been listening to her problems. Whenever she needs something, I'm there. I'm a listening ear. Like, I have been there for her. And I have needed somebody to be there for me. So if I can take care of myself, where does that leave everyone else in my life? Because let me tell you, when you start to trust yourself and you start to take responsibility for your own life, you start to look at other people different, and you start expecting them to take responsibility for their own life. And then you start saying, oh, wait a minute. I've been spending a lot of time trying to convince you, cajole you, rescue you, when that's what you should be doing for yourself. Are your relationships going to change with this? Absolutely. I think that becomes an issue with most people. It's like, if I learn to trust myself and behave in a way that is where I have integrity with myself, what's the relationship going to look like with my mother? Because now I'm not calling and I'm not asking for her advice. I have to tell her no. She may need to borrow money. She may want to come over. She want to call late. And you're not going to be able to do those things, because trusting yourself requires that you put yourself first and you prioritize what your needs are first. So you are not going to be able to do this work if you're prioritizing how it impacts another person. And y'all know I don't give a fuck. Like, y'all care too much about what somebody else thinks, because you think your happiness rests in their approval of you, which causes you to reject and abandon yourself, which is why you don't trust yourself. But once you begin the process of doing what you say you're going to do, and you see the benefit of it, it becomes like a drug. Listen, when I learned how to save money, I was like, oh my God, I can do anything. Wow. When I would make a decision and say, okay, even me starting this podcast, I went back and forth, oh, well, what is it going to be? Is it going to, I had dreams like starting the podcast. If I'm not going to be Oprah overnight, what's the point of starting the podcast? Versus I have a message. I have an audience. I have something I want to share. I think that I could be of service to others. What I know, I think is helpful. Let's roll with it. Did I make lots of mistakes in the beginning? Absolutely. If y'all have been here from the beginning, y'all know, like, this podcast has gotten so much better. The audio is better. Now we're on YouTube. We got a video podcast. I feel like I am better at communicating my ideas and moving through. I'm finally better at, being consistent with dropping podcasts and not, we're not going to talk about the past, but recording one podcast every other month. But it has taken time, and it has taken me trusting myself. Even when I make a mistake, even when I fall short, it's like, I believe this is what I should be doing. Get back up and get back on it. Another critical piece that comes around with you not trusting yourself is the shame you have if you make a mistake. You can't even imagine, oh, if I make a mistake, my whole body is going to be set on fire and I'm going to shrivel into smoke into the ground and I will no longer exist anymore. That's what shame does to us. It teaches us that we're broken and that we cannot be repaired. And therefore, we cannot trust ourselves. We cannot go by our own internal compass. We have to go off of what others say, what others are doing. We have to live vicariously through others, and we have to live through a constant comparison. That's what shame does to us. But through de-shaming, through exposing yourself, because that's what happens. That's how you get through shame. You expose yourself. And when you take actions and you practice trusting yourself, you expose yourself and it feels scary. But then you realize you don't die, but you have to take the first step. I knew that the relationship with my mother had a serious impact on my entire life, but it really took me being able to, it's like speak it out loud to other people, like trusting myself in that process. And now look what has happened. We're like almost 100,000 deep in this game, right? This community, all because I trusted myself. So listen to me. This is going to be hard for some of y'all. Start small. Do what you say you're going to do. It is completely life-changing, okay? You know, I feel like I be beating a dead horse sometimes because I tell y'all the same thing over and over again. But that's all I have today. This is the work, and we are all in this together. I love you dearly. I'll see you next week. If you haven't already, please go to YouTube and watch this and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, you can also watch me, or you can also listen to me on your podcast networks, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. So whatever is your pleasure, I'm here. I'll see you all later, and bye. Thank you for listening to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and make sure you comment, subscribe, and rate the show. You can keep the conversation going over on IG at Black Mother Wound, and click the link in the show notes to download the free Mother Wound Healing Guide. See you next week.